because we're all trained to be manifestors, pretty much.
Okay.
Manifestors are the people, they're the only type that's designed to initiate.
All right.
But the interesting thing about manifestors is they're not really designed to be the doers either.
Right.
But a lot of times they are until they burn out.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the generators and the manifesting generators, we're the doers because we're the types that have sustainable energy.
Yes.
And about 70% of the population are generators and manifesting generators. And so we have long-term sustainable energy. And provided that we're taking care of ourselves and living in alignment with our design and not initiating too much,
Right.
we have virtually inexhaustible energy.
Yeah.
As long as we're doing the right work. If we're doing the wrong work, then we can get burned out. I mean, and I've burned out before, but that was before I knew that I was a generator and I didn't know how to live as a generator.
Right.
So, but projectors do not have long-term sustainable energy.
Right.
But although projectors are quite different from each other, some people have more energy, some people have less, but you don't have that it's called an engine. It's called the sacral center, and it's the engine, the most powerful engine in the chart. And it's in the belly. It's right in the navel point, which, in yoga, your yoga teacher, we work the navel point, right? Because that's where we build our fire from. Well, that's the sacral center in human design. And so those of us who are generators, it's like that fire is always on. Right. And so it gives us long-term sustainable energy. But when projectors try to keep up with generators, it's like eventually you'll end up on the couch.
Yeah.
At some point.
Indeed. Yeah.
But it's also important to know for projectors, I always like to mention this too, like Barack Obama is a projector.
Yeah.
Okay. Barbara Streisand is a projector. So it's like you can have a big life. You can be very influential. You can make an impact.
Yeah.
And Ra said projectors are designed to be the leaders of the future. That was his take on projectors.
Right.
Partly because they can feel what's going on with generators and help to guide generators.
Right.
And so I always like to say that because sometimes somebody did this on one of my videos on my YouTube channel where they had watched a video about manifesting generators. And this person wrote in the comments and said, "I'm a projector, bummer." And, and so I respond to that person and go, "No, it's not a bummer. You just have different superpowers. You're just different."
That's such a very good point because in some ways I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not supposed to be initiating things. I wait for an invitation, but what does the invitation look like? And so that's where I could get into feeling like, oh no, I wish I was a different type. So can you say more about this, the energy and how it is different for each of the types? I mean, there's generators, there's manifestors, there's projectors, there's manifesting generators, and there's reflectors, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. There's 5 types.
Yeah.
And one comment I want to make about human and design in general, because it's different than a lot of other systems, is it's an energy system.
Right.
It's not a personality system.
Right.
Okay. So it's not like Myers-Briggs. It's not like the Enneagram. The Enneagram is kind of energetic also, but it's definitely more of a personality system. It's not like that.
Right.
Okay. Because a lot of times people kind of clump those things together. And human design is a system that helps us understand our energy in a way that's related to, but different from the chakra system.
Right.
Okay. Yep. But it's kind of more in that world than it is in the Myers-Briggs world.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Yep. And because the chakras, right, is the yogic traditions are all about mapping the human energy fields, and they have multiple maps, not just one.
Yes.
So it works more in that world and more in the world of like Chinese medicine or something like that. So we're mapping our energy and how does our energy work and how do we maximize our energy and how do we minimize the ways that we drain our energy and like that. Okay. So the 5 types are energy types.
Right.
They're not personality types, although they tend to have personality implications.
Right.
But not always. And the conditioning is a big factor, right? because like I was just saying, we're mostly conditioned to be manifestors, which is to go out and make stuff happen,
Yeah.
right? Initiate,
Yeah.
it's like if you want something to happen, you go out and you make something happen.
Yeah.
So most of us are conditioned that that's how we become successful in life.
Right.
And so we're all kind of dealing with that, right?
Yeah.
So manifestors are the only type that are designed to initiate. And they do have a certain amount of power, and we call manifesting power. But they don't have that long-term sustainable energy that the generators have either.
Right.
So manifestors are designed to initiate and create waves of energy and waves of opportunity that the rest of us respond to. So then you've got 70% of manifestors are about 8 or 9% of the population. So they are really the ones who, they're kind of the leaders of the past. Okay, they can get kind of a bad rap of being like the dictators or the authoritarians. Okay. Oh. And they can be.
Right.
I did a life purpose thing about manifestors on my YouTube channel recently, and there are definitely dictators that I talked about, but there's also people like Al Gore is a manifestor, right? And Zelensky is a manifestor. They actually have very similar human design charts.
Oh, interesting.
Just like Hitler and Putin has very similar human design charts. It's a fascinating thing that he did. Okay, I don't want to get distracted. But anyway, that's a really interesting video because I didn't know what I was going to find before I pulled their charts. And then I went, oh my goodness. So anyway, so manifestors have that kind of like, they're here to make an impact, right? And then we generators, we're designed to respond. And so we respond to the waves that manifestors make. And we go, oh, wow, what's going on? Okay. So we are the sacral center that I was talking about is responsive. And so our role is to be tuning into what's going on in our outer reality and to be tuning into what the flow of life is bringing to us, right? What is spirit telling us? And then to respond to that. And when we have an idea or a desire or something like that, we kind of go, okay, spirit, this is what I'm thinking about. This is what I'm desiring. Okay, bring me something to respond to. And then we wait until we have something to respond to. Well, I know when I first learned I was a generator, I was like, that can't be accurate because I had been initiating my whole life. But then I realized, yeah, I burned out 3 times too. There's something to this. So I really set myself the challenge of responding. And what I realized is that there was a lot for me to respond to all the time. I just wasn't thinking about things that way. Right. And so when you really get tapped into that flow of life, like Darla, right? Like Darla says, when you're tapped into source, source will bring you things to respond to, just like source will bring projectors invitations. Right. So, but for generators and for manifesting generators, our role is to be tuning in to what's happening. And then we build, we're builders, we're creators, and in a sense, we do make stuff happen, but not in that initial initiating way. Right. It's more like we get something and we respond to it and we get this, yeah, that's good. And then we initiate. But we start with response.
Right. Oh, what a beautiful distinction. I really
we start with response, but once we get so our inner authority goes, it's trusting your gut, or it goes, which sometimes means it's not the right time. Right. Anyways, when we get that, then we can initiate. But the same thing is true with projectors. Projectors, once they get invited, and they get that inner sense, so they have a different kind of inner authority. But when they get the clarity that, oh, yes, this is something to move forward with, then they can initiate. So it's not that you don't ever initiate. I mean, you and your partner initiated doing this summit, right? Yes. But you were probably invited, by your coach to do something to expand your community. Yes. Right. You were invited to expand your community and you're like, oh, okay. Now it's like, yeah, I'm going to do that. That feels really right. I'm going to do that. And then you get to initiate. Yeah. So it's not that you can't ever initiate. It's how you enter into things. Right. And especially how you enter into important things and big things.
Yeah.
like starting a new business or starting a relationship or buying a house or moving to a new place or having a baby, or right, those
Right.
big things for projectors, those are like, you don't have to be invited like to go to a movie.
Right.
You can just decide you want to go to a movie,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be invited to decide what to have for dinner,
Right.
right? No, not so much. It's more like the bigger things.
Yeah.
And so manifesting generators are a little bit different than generators because they're really, really fast and they tend to skip steps. Generators tend to be a little more methodical, and manifesting generators, because they also have that manifesting energy, they're like, oh, they're super fast, right? And they skip steps.
Right.
And sometimes that's great because they create shortcuts.
Right.
Other times they go, oops, I skipped something kind of important, and then they have to go back and do it.
Right.
Right. So yeah. And the conundrum for manifesting generators sometimes is that because they have that manifesting energy, they want to act like a manifester, but they can burn themselves out that way. And they can also spin in circles that way. And so they do better when they respond too.
Right.
Projectors do really well when projectors are really sensitive to the energy of generators because they don't have that sacral energy, right? So they feel that sacral energy of the generators, and they can go, oh, you're like you support clients, right? You can feel, probably most of your clients are generators because most of the population are generators. You can kind of feel how they're using that energy, and you can guide them and say, I think it might be better if you go this way than that way.
Yeah.
Right. You can just kind of feel it, right?
Yeah.
It's an energetic resonance, right, that you have with your people. And so that's why they're more guides. So you're not here to do all that work that generators are doing. You can do work. Absolutely. I mean, Barack Obama, Barbara Streisand, they did a lot of work,
Yeah.
but they also had a bunch of people who were helping them. They weren't doing everything on their own. Right. And then our fifth type are reflectors, and reflectors are and projectors are about 20% of the population. So they're a significant part. And then the reflectors have what we call a completely open chart. Like they don't have any of the centers defined. I know you might not know what that means, but the basic idea of that is that they are very sensitive and they pick up energy from the environment and then they reflect it back out. So one of the things that they do is they help a community, could be a family, could be a neighborhood, could be a workplace that they're a part of, could be the world. They reflect back the health of that community.
Oh, wow.
Because they're sensitive. And so it's very important for reflectors, to be in the right place with the right people.
Right.
Because if they're not, it's really hard on them because they're taking in other people's energy.
Right.
So they need a lot of time alone so that they can let other energy out. But they can also be enormously powerful because when they're around other people, they take in the energy and they amplify it. So they light up like a Christmas tree, like, right?
Wow.
But they can't maintain that.
Right.
So they're here to let us know kind of what's going on in the community that they're a part of.
It's coming through about these different types.
Each have a role. We each have a role in kind of the larger whole of humanity. Yeah. Exactly. And like those waves that manifestors create and generators and manifesting generators respond to also create more waves that are invitations for projectors, and then reflectors take it in and then they reflect it back out and they let us know what's going on. Right. So we are not isolated islands at all. Right. I mean, we kind of get taught that, that we're like individuals and, our destiny is up to us and all of that. But, really, we're all interconnected all the time.
Yes.
We're all part of a whole. And so human design helps us see according to the types, which is only just one part, but it is a very, very vital part of the whole system, how we kind of relate to each other.
Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, this would apply, for partners, like life partners, children, right? I mean, all of the
people you work with.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
yeah.
I can see so many implications and the use for being aware of our human design that gives us this sense of moving forward, of living into who we are, and relating to people, working with, building partnerships or relationships or not, depending on our design type.
Well, and it helps us really depersonalize things and helps us understand things as energy.
Yes.
So, for example, there's a woman where I've worked with for over 10 years now. Okay. She's like my tech support person. She's a manifesting generator, one of the fastest manifesting generators, according to type in her chart. And she's so fast and she makes mistakes. And until I saw her design, I would get annoyed because she'd miss stuff. Right. And then when I saw her chart, I was like, oh, of course. Right. And it completely depersonalized the whole thing. And then I got to recalibrate my strategy about how I worked with her to appreciate her speed, which I'd always appreciated anyway, but I really appreciated it. And to go, okay, so a part of that is that she's going to miss things because she's working so fast. Right.
Yes.
That's what manifesting generators do. Or there was a man I was in relationship with before a few years ago, and I found out he was a manifester. And then I was like, oh, yeah, of course, that's why he acts that way, right? Because he's just like, all about impact, barreling forward. He actually works on the world stage, and so he's great in that thing. And it was a little hard close up because it was like, whoa,
yeah,
right? But it helped depersonalize it for me. And I went, oh, that's just how he is.
Oh, that's
right.
really beautiful.
And it helps us appreciate and love each other for how we are. And then, and realize, what, it's not personal. It's like Lisa doesn't make mistakes be personal. It's just a part of her type.
Yeah.
Right.